Hi, I'm David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Dr. Candy Ho. We will be discussing integrative career and capstone learning. Candy is an international award-winning career development educator and a scholar. She is an assistant professor at the University of Fraser Valley. She received her doctoral degree in education leadership from Simon Fraser University. It's a great pleasure to have you with me today, Candy.
Thanks, David. So good to be here. Hi, everyone.
You are a professor of integrative career and capstone learning. Please explain what that is.
Yeah. Wow, that's such a big question to start, and I thank you for asking it. I think of my thesis supervisor and my academic parent, Dr. Chris Magnuson, defined career as a constellation of life roles, and therefore, good career development is really, when you think about it, it's an integration of all the life roles, learning, and experiences that an individual accumulate over their lifetime. So, in that sense, it's integrative, and an example that I can give you that I think relates to both of us, you and me, David, is that being parents of young children, they make us both better educators and vice versa as well. I think I bring a lot of patience now, being a parent of a 5-year-old turning 6 soon, into the classroom, where I appreciate more of the mature adult conversations that I have with my students. And it's working with students that help me become a better parent, because I can see the potential possibilities and trajectory that my son will likely go through. So it's win-win, and certainly that's a way for life roles to integrate. And then, of course, there's the capstone component, senior capstone. So I specialize, my dream course is teaching at U of V Port 399, which is a career senior capstone course that helps students look at their collective experiences. They're at the end of their time at U of V in their undergraduate studies, so it's creating projects, conducting information interviews with people, putting together an e-portfolio that they can feel proud to showcase to future employers and graduate schools. So we have a lot of fun working on all of those assignments, and I like to call them non-disposable, so renewable assignments. It's not a paper that you write, and we've all had written those papers where at the end of the semester, you're like, I'm never going to see that again. You're going to bring back your e-portfolio. You've cultivated conversations with information interviewees, so you continue to build on those relationships. So I think all of these, and my title, I just love it. It speaks about the elements of moving forward to prefer future, or prefer futures, because it needs to be in plural. So thinking about how will students' current life experiences and attributes, skills, and knowledge help them move forward closer to their short-term goals and long-term aspirations.
Why it is important?
It's another big question. So thank you. I think I've had actually, I'm celebrating my first decade as a faculty member. Before that, I've worked in student services at every single job imaginable. And one consistent observation that I can tell you that I can make, even as we're finding this new normal with managing COVID, is that, when students graduate and they're moving forward to their next step, they tend to think, oh, you know what, school, my educational experiences doesn't necessarily transfer to where I'd like to go. Be it graduate or professional schools, be it starting your own company, be it looking at that next job, or finding your first full-time position. And I would argue that they perceive a skills gap, but really it's a skills awareness gap.
Right.
because, our students, they spend all this time and money and their efforts towards getting their degree, but
Right.
they often have trouble articulating what are the transferable skills that they've derived from all of those experiences, and then being able to translate that to their audience. So employers, graduate school admissions committee. So really, we have a lot of work to do in terms of helping students articulate those along with their contributions. David, you and I have met during a United Nations Sustainable Development Goals event at UFV, and I like to think that that is a framework that works very well in the career development perspective, where we get students to think about, the bigger picture. How did they see themselves contributing to their ideal world that they want to work in, to live in, to thrive in? And being able to say, I can contribute something, my talent towards building this world for a better future. And I think those are the things that we need students we need to help students to dream big, to say, what's your contribution to tackling or supporting a global goal that we're all working on. And when employers, graduate schools, whoever is on the receiving end, when they see this, they'll see, wow, that's a global citizen right there, as opposed to, recent graduate in such and such, in marketing, anthropology, and science. So I think we need to start thinking about, I've been thinking about this because I live in the career development realm, but what any career development professionals, faculty members will tell you is that we really see career development as a lifelong process. You don't have to have everything figured out. I don't know. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And, I'm going to spend my lifetime trying to figure out that question. And that's okay. But what is not okay is you feeling paralyzed and not seeking help and not taking action, and keep learning about the world, about yourself, because these elements change.
Why were you interested in this particular area?
First of all, selfish reasons. I was a undergraduate at Simon Fraser University, and I was thinking of going into the teacher ed program. And as part of that, I needed to beef up my application with volunteer opportunities. So full confession, and I know this is going to go on YouTube, it started with selfish confession, but then it became gradually less selfish along the way, because I realized, wow, I am not half bad at this. I joined the peer education program at SFU with the focus in career. So I volunteer as a career peer educator at their career and volunteer services center. Got a lot out of it. And when students come back and said, wow, she's helped me a great deal, and evaluations keep coming, it's very encouraging for an undergraduate student who, again, still at that point, didn't know what she want to do, to say, there's something there that I need to pay attention to. And then as mentioned, once I graduated, I worked in student services. Didn't know that there would be a career for me there in higher education. And yet here I am talking with you nearly 20 years later, since I started in that first volunteer position. And then in student affairs, I have found that with every single role, so I've worked in new student orientation, residence, campus life, advising, careers, work integrated learning, co-op, you name it. I have always grappled towards helping students understand how are they going to use an orientation leader experience. And in fact, I wrote about it in Academic His Top 10. How has becoming an orientation leader helped you with everything else that you want to do? And then I realized, hey, there are teaching intensive institutions like University of the Fraser Valley where you can teach 4 credit courses on career development. So that was kind of the next leg in my journey, which brought me to you. And to wrap it all up, I started as a graduate student studying career education and development, and I won an award with CEREC, which is a National Career Development Association. And now I'm currently the board chair of the organization. So I think I realized outside of teaching,
Yeah.
outside of my private practice,
Yeah.
I really see myself as an advocate and ambassador with career development and just
Yeah.
overall, whether or
Yeah.
not we teach careers, whether or
Yeah.
not we are, educate
Yeah.
passionate educators like
Right.
you,
Yeah.
who are asking people about their careers, we need
Yes.
to do a better job. And this
Yes.
goes back to the SDGs to
Yeah.
support decent living for everybody,
That's
because
right.
careers
Yeah.
has everything to do with livelihood,
Mhm.
physical and mental health, so good health and well-being,
Yeah.
and reducing inequalities.
Right. You recently wrote 2 articles on leadership in Canada's national newspaper. Can you please share a little bit about these articles?
Yeah. I wanted to thank the Globe and Mail for the invitation to do that. It was a lot of fun. I was invited as in my role as the SARIC board chair to contribute to the Leadership Lab series,
Right.
where they invite people, experts and advisors to talk about the future of work and what that could look like. And now it becomes teaching material for my future classes as well. So
Nice.
what better opportunity to put my passion
Yeah.
and thinking on paper to share with students,
Yeah.
colleagues, and
Yeah.
people that I interact with. So
Uh-huh.
it was a series of 4 think pieces,
Mhm.
and to distill it, I think I looked at the from the perspective of individual employees.
Uh-huh.
There's this thing called COVID-19 that just happened, not to
Yes.
date this YouTube,
Yeah.
a couple years ago, where
Yeah.
pandemic or
Yeah.
major life events, when you think about it, will
Yeah.
shift people's priorities,
Exactly.
how they think about work, and
Uh-huh.
the fact that it's no longer just focusing on work, or
Mhm.
is my profession really that important to me?
Mhm.
And if so, how can I continue to put my
Mhm.
full efforts there?
Yeah.
Or if it's not, do I
Yeah.
need to pivot, shift gears, and think about what possibilities lie for me next?
Mhm.
And people have competing priorities as well. So
Mhm.
when my kitchen table has become my home office, along with that, it's where my kids play, it's where he does his homework.
Yeah.
The personal and professional boundaries are blurring as
Yes.
well. And so there's a couple of metaphors. The
Yeah.
traditional metaphor when it comes to career development is you got to climb the ladder, but you know what? Not everybody does. So that is an outdated notion here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy where I am
Yeah.
as a faculty member, and what I think about is,
Yeah.
when you've got a plate, the
Mhm.
portfolio career. What do
Yeah.
you put on a plate that is
Uh-huh.
fulfilling and satisfying for you and meaningful,
Yeah.
in terms of you feel you can contribute, you're
Mhm.
working with
Mhm.
good people,
Mhm.
you're learning something that energizes you in
Yeah.
results.
Yeah.
So when I think about that, it's a plate, it's a winding path,
Yeah.
it's the ideas that when you do the next right thing,
Yes.
identify what it is,
Yeah.
the path will take care of itself. And I
Mhm.
find that we've got so many students and
Mhm.
clients that I work with that
Mhm.
have the expectation that they must know
Mhm.
what goes on in the long-term future. If
Uh-huh.
anything, the pandemic has taught us, it's
Yes.
that the future is uncertain, but if
That's
you
true.
take the next right path,
Mhm.
you'll find yourself there, and you
Mhm.
might find yourself in a very different future that's
Mhm.
unexpected too. So
Mhm.
that's the individual employee front.
Okay.
From the organization front, there's a lot of implication based on what we just talked about.
Yeah.
It's employers need to shift from their on their recruitment and
Yeah.
retention strategies, because if people's primary motivation is no longer about climbing the ladder, then
Yeah.
incentives like money,
Yeah.
promotion,
Yeah.
they're not going to be as meaningful unless you've identified employees who are still driven and
Yeah.
motivated by that.
Yeah.
If you want to keep good people, you need
Yeah.
to appeal to their values and to their
Mhm.
purpose, and it
Mhm.
starts by just asking them.
Yeah.
Coming out of COVID-19 in
Right.
this new phase that we're at, there's
Mhm.
no better opportunity to ask
Mhm.
employees. So the
Yeah.
idea, I wrote about the idea of stay interviews. It didn't
Yeah.
come from me. I learned it from Harvard Business Review podcast,
Mhm.
and being curious about
Mhm.
what your employees are interested in
Yeah.
and what it will inspire them and motivate them.
Right.
And I can't really talk about this unless I mention the idea of the
Uh-huh.
notion of equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Right.
I've come to learn
Uh-huh.
that equity is not the same thing as equality, because what works for you, David, is likely going to not work for me. So if you've got employees who are like, I drop off my kid at 8:50, there's no way I'm going to get to work at 9 o'clock during your time.
That's true.
Can you make that exception? Can you make flexibility and talk with that individual employee on what will work for them in order to keep them happy? I am a night owl, so whenever possible, I try not to say yes to meetings that are like, 7, 8 in the morning, because I tell my lovely meeting, requester that, like, you're not going to get the best of me. This is, I'm going to be half awake. So please, like, can we find a way so that I can, fully thrive and bring you the best perspective that comes from me at that time, right? So it's things like that, the small things that can be done with there might be some constraint, and you're going to have to look at it from the organizational perspective. I do a lot of consulting with organizations too, so we have this really broad conversation. So it might not work for everybody. You need to find something that makes this an environment that everybody can thrive by treating people as unique human beings with different needs. And with different needs come different types of accommodation, which you and I are certainly familiar with when we receive student accommodations for our courses. And the last thing I'll say is that the conversation is the relationship. So have that stay interview conversation, have that conversation about what are the conditions in the environment that will help you thrive, but don't just end it there. Continue to check in, continue to monitor, because circumstances change all the time.
Well said. Finally, given today's job market, what is your advice to students who are looking for employment?
I'll go back to a full circle. I feel like I've been dispensing advice throughout this conversation, and for individuals, organizations, if you want to chat further, happy to connect. One thing I do want to emphasize is that a successful career, living a successful life, really, you need to live your life integratively to be able to flow between the various life roles. So coming out of the pandemic, I no longer believe in the idea of work-life balance. I think there are people that excel at it. I am not one of those people, and so are, I think, about 90% of the population, to be able to flow, but integratively. Work-life integration is something that I subscribe to at this point, to know that at what time, under what circumstances, what is the primary life role that I need to play. So right now I'm speaking with you, as an educator to educator, but when my son comes back from school, he is my primary attention. Like he gets my primary attention, and I put all that aside to be with him. So just know, know what to be and when to act, and to feel the sense of pride, that what you do, choosing what you do, and even if you don't have a choice, how can you cultivate that sense of pride and happiness? How can you cultivate personal meaning in terms of it with respect to what you do, while making a contribution to your communities? And I think, it's a big task, and I'm asking a lot. However, I go back to the idea of what is the next right thing you need to be doing to find yourself in this place, this ever evolving place, because once you get there, it'll likely change again. So you need to be able to detect what has shifted, and how can you find yourself in that new journey. Again, winding path. There's a lot to consider here.
Thank you for your time, Candy. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone.